All right. It's Tuesdays when you might see this, maybe Wednesday. It's factoring and solving for zero. Next week, we are heading into solving quadratic equations, and the big thing there is factoring. We've done it before. This should be just a quick review of what we have done in the past. So, why factoring? Always look for a greatest common factor. That has to be your go-to thing. Greatest common factor. So an example would be these three right here. So take a look at those. See if there's a greatest common factor. Pause the video. Write it out. So go ahead and pause right now, then I'll show the answers. You have paused. You saw, I hope that the common factor here is 5. Common factor here is x. Common factor here is 3, or I'm sorry, is 8y. When you find the common factor, there they are right there, 5x and 8y. You divide, you take that out of each term and rewrite it in factored form, and you get this right here, which is, move this, hold it. And you get the factored form, which is 5 times z squared plus 6, same thing, x times 3x plus 7, and 8y times y minus 6. So always a good idea to check your factoring. 8y times y is 8y squared. 8y minus 6y is minus 24y. Check those to make sure you're good on that. The next thing we did is, the question is, why do we factor? Why do we do all this factoring stuff? Why are we factoring? And we are factoring so we could solve for zero. And that's how we solve quadratics, is solving for zero. So we've done this also. If we have 4g squared equals minus 6g, it's a hard thing to figure out, but what you do is set it equal to 0. In this case, we'd add 6g to both sides. We have a binomial equaling 0. Now we can factor it. If we factor it, greatest common factor is 2g. We now, since these are in factored form, if either one of those factors equals 0, we have an answer. And in this case, 2g can be 0, or 2g plus 3 could be 0. And those are your two possible answers. So as we factor in quadratics, you can have more than one answer. It's where the graph, the parabola, crosses that x-axis. So right here is so try this one. Solve that one for 0. Go ahead and pause your machine. Solve for 0. So first of all, you should have factored it. Find the common factor, 3x in both of them. Take it out, and you end up with 3x equals x plus 7. So if both of those factors are 0, your two possible answers are 0 or negative 7. So that's the first thing, greatest common factor. Then we did this common factoring, trinomials. The goal here is find the b value and the c value, and it is factors of c whose sum is b. We did that a lot. So in this case, factors of 16 whose sum is 10 happens to be 8 and 2. And that's how we factor that. Factors of c whose sum is b. To make sure, always FOIL it in your head or write it out and make sure this works. X squared plus 8x plus 2x, that's my 10x. 8 times 2 is 16. So make sure you FOIL when you check. Go ahead and try that one. Pause your, pause me. You can pause me right now. So you found, hopefully, factors of 24 whose sum is 11. And let's see, that would be 8 and 3. 8 and 3 are the factors. So your factored form would be z plus 8 and z plus 3. Next thing we did in factoring was, what about when you have a trinomial and the b is negative, as in this case. Same thing. Factors of c whose sum is b. Factors of 12 whose sum is negative 8. Let me see, that would be 6 and 2. Ooh. Factors. Two negatives are positive. Negative 6, negative 2. I bet you that's what it is. Yes, it is. Look at that. Negative 2, negative 6. So the factored form would be x minus 2, x minus 6. I'm not sure. I got to check. X squared minus 2x minus 6x minus 8x, negative 2 times negative 6 plus 12. Try that one on your own. Pause. And as we come back, you should have found factors of 35 whose sum is negative 12. And that would be negative, I think it's negative 7 and negative 5. Yes, n minus 7, n minus 5. That is the factored form of that trinomial. Now you could solve for 0 if that was our goal. Next slide, same kind of a thing. How about when c is negative? Same thing. Factors of c whose sum is b. Factors of negative 21 whose sum is 4. Pause it if you need. I'm going to reveal. Factors of negative 21, sum of 4, I think it's negative 7 and negative 3. One is positive, one is not. 7 times negative 3 is negative 21. 7 plus a negative 3, sum is 4. Put those into the factored form, and I have that. So give that one a shot. Factors of negative 30 whose sum is 13. I'm not even going to have you pause it right now because you probably, well, maybe pause it. So factors of negative 13, or negative 30 and 13 is going to be 15 and negative 2 gives us a factor. See that right? 15 times negative 2 is negative 30. 15 plus a negative 2 is 13. It is correct. X plus 15, x minus 2. That is our factoring. But here come the ones that we did this at the end, a little bit quicker. Difference of squares. If you see a squared minus b squared, if they're both squares, the factored form is a plus b, a minus b. It looks like this. If you see two squares being subtracted, x squared minus 25 is x plus 5, x minus 5. You need to recognize that pattern. As we go down, take a look at that one. Pause it if you need to. They're both perfect squares. 8 plus y, 8 minus y. One more to try. Try these two right there. Pause it. And you end up with perfect squares, 10 and m, 3n and 4. 10 plus m, 10 minus m. 3n plus 4, 3n minus 4. And then we have the perfect square trinomial pattern. You're going to miss this one, not by getting it wrong. You're just going to miss seeing it. When you have perfect squares on each end of a trinomial, check to see if the square root of those times 2 is the middle term. So in this case, we have the square root is x, the square root is 3. X times 3 times 2 is 6. So that's x plus 3 squared. Remember, that is x plus 3 times x plus 3. So when you FOIL it, you get the same thing. These examples look like this. So take a look here. Perfect square, yes, n squared. Perfect square, 16, yes. Do the square roots of those times 2 equal 8n? Yes. So the factored form would be n plus 4, the square roots, squared. So try, here's another one. Try this one. 81, x squared. Pause it. Yes, x minus 9 squared. Okay. And try these two real quickly. D squared plus 10d plus 25. Pause your machine, whatever you're using. And the answers are z plus 10 and d minus 5. So that's our review. We got to hammer these down really good for next week. Your assignment is right there. After watching the factoring video, which you just did, let me make it smaller so you can see it. It's going to push me over the 10-minute mark. I'm not going to make it. There we go. Watch the video. There's your assignment. Use the file, submit answers 24 and 31 along with your answer. So great job today of listening, I assume. Thanks, and we'll see you later.